Okay, so the very first thing that I'm going to do is decide, do I want a horizontal or do I want a vertical format? How do you think I can figure that out? Measure. What are we going to measure? Yeah, we're going to measure that back wall. How much of it is high compared to how much of it is wide? So there's more width, just barely, than there is height. So what does that mean about my paper? We want width. If it turned out to be square, it wouldn't matter which way you went. I'm going to give myself the border. Remember when we did this with our, I think, negative space drawings? We gave ourselves a border. By the way, you notice that I'm not using a certain tool that we've been using since we started this perspective. What tool is that? No ruler. So we're not going to use rulers in this drawing. Here's my horizontal drawing. And so now I have figured out that we're going to be drawing horizontally. I need to identify, number one, the horizon line, right? Followed by my central vertical axis. So where's my horizon line? We want to figure out how high my eyes are between the floor and the ceiling. Okay, so I'm looking over here at these lockers, for instance, right? And my eye level is along these lockers somewhere. Where would you think my eyes are compared to the lockers?
In the middle. Yeah.
So we're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lockers. If we measured from the floor up to my eyes, if we had a measuring tape, we could say it was like maybe 4 feet. Let's just pretend it's 4 feet. We could take that same measuring tape on the back wall and measure up, and that's where my eye level would be back there. Let's measure from the bottom to the top of the door frame and see what we get, just with a measuring tape. It's just a little more than 7 feet, right?
Yeah.
So we can basically guess that we're 8 feet from the ceiling too, right? That the ceiling from the floor is 8 feet. And if my eye level is at 4 feet, what does that mean in terms of proportion between the floor, my eye level, and the eye level and the ceiling?
It's going to be halfway.
It's going to be halfway. Right, good. So that means that I'm going to put my horizon line where on the page?
Halfway.
Halfway. Very good. And I'm just going to guess that's about right there. Horizon line. See how I pulled that line out of my pencil? We're not using rulers. So we've established the horizon line. Now we got to establish our central vertical axis. And just like we used the floor and the ceiling in relation to my eye level, we're going to use the side walls in relation to where I'm sitting in the hallway. And in this hallway, it's really great because you actually have these little tiles on the floor. You can count the tiles from one side to the other and then basically look at what tile you're sitting over in the seam on that tile and figure out where you are in the hallway. Or you can just basically hold a pencil up middle range and figure out, I'm just slightly to the left compared to the right. So that means that my central vertical axis is slightly to the left on the page too. Mm-hmm. Maybe about right there. Which when you cross that central vertical axis with the horizon line, what do you get?
Central vanishing point?
Yeah, you get your central vanishing point. At this point, we need to draw the rectangle that is the back wall. Where the floor hits that back wall is the bottom line of that rectangle. Where this side wall hits the back wall is the left vertical, the right vertical, and then of course where the ceiling and the back wall hit, that's the rectangle that I'm trying to measure. And we've already figured out that it is slightly wider than it is tall, and I measured that. And that this vanishing point is going to be equidistant. If I stood up, we'd have a different situation. So the easiest thing for me to do is just start with my horizontal lines, where the ceiling meets the wall and the floor meets the wall. They're the same distance from the vanishing point. See, and I can measure that with my pencil on my page. And then I just know that this central vertical axis is a little bit closer to that side than it is to this side, and that this is slightly wider than it is tall. And we don't want to draw much bigger than this. If we draw much bigger than this, what's going to happen to the rest of the surfaces?
They get smaller.
Yeah, we don't have much of them to draw. If we draw really small, what happens?
It becomes way too big.
We start drawing like right here, right in front of your face. So at this point, what's my next step? We've drawn the back wall. in relation to CVP. Now what? Take your central vanishing point, connect up, and keep drawing. Vanishing point, draw, or no, or don't hesitate to do this. Turn the thing and draw the line. Okay, this is all we're doing. We are just going to get the drawing started. The basic structure of the drawing. Make sure you're getting the proportions correct. Make sure you're getting your line quality good. Notice how I corrected that one. Four of these different spots. I didn't put the door in. There's no detail. I just want the basic structure. If I get this right, everything else falls into place just fine. If I get this wrong, nothing works. Okay, so we're practicing this. The back wall, the side wall, top and bottom, 4 times, different places. So make sure that you're altering, your vanishing points. Like, don't always be near the middle. If you wanted to bring an easel in, you could stand up and do one. You could sit on the floor. Also, that would be interesting because that would bring your horizon line low. But make sure that that vanishing point in relation to the wall is in the right spot and that your proportion of the wall is correct as well. And then it's pretty easy. There are some things that get a little difficult. I'm gonna start with my same borders, so I'm not drawing to the edge of the paper. Let's measure first. Do we have more height on the back wall or more width? We have more width, and it's basically the same as what we just did here. You know why that doesn't surprise me? Yeah, the hallways are the same width, and we're at the same height. Now, there would be some differences. There's that little hallway that goes out, that single door out there. It's a much more narrow hallway. Okay, but there are some differences here besides that. So we can guess that my horizon line is what's going to be similar here. It's going to come right across the middle. What about my central vertical axis compared to the last drawing I did?
It's going to be really
Much further to the right. So here I'm holding this pencil out and drawing an imaginary line on that back wall, and then I'm measuring the width from the right corner to that imaginary line. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a 1 to 4 situation, meaning that if I divided this line up 4 times, which is easy to do because we can hit the half mark. We can hit the half mark of each of those. Those are the 4 segments that I just counted out, which means that my central vertical axis comes across right here, just like that, which then gives me my vanishing point. And now all I have to do is draw that wall. Well, that's pretty easy. I just have to have my ceiling coming across here. You just got to start with one of those lines. And we know that the distance from the horizon line to the ceiling is going to be the same as the distance from the horizon line to the floor. And then basically we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that going to be about right? Yeah, it's maybe a little bit longer. Maybe about like that. Bring it out just a little further. Okay, this is going to be easy. We see this line connecting to here, and we draw it up. This connecting to here, that corner, and we draw it down. But over here, it's going to be a little different. We know where the floor meets the wall. We know where this Y line comes down. They make a very tight corner. But over here, we have something different happening. If you look at this line in the space, where does it intersect the other Y line? At a corner? It intersects below the corner, and you have to be sensitive about that. So it intersects about right here. And where does that X line intersect the Y line at the bottom? At a corner? No, about like that. So then it gives us a new point here and a new point here. Like this. And like that. So what does that give you in the drawing?
gives you a little space for the whole line.
Yeah, you can actually turn the corner, right?
Mhm.
So you have to be sensitive to those things. If you're not analyzing, and that's an analysis, that's an intersectional analysis, then it will start to not make sense anymore. Well, it won't make sense. It never will make sense. Okay. You notice also we had that door open in the printmaking studio. I just pretended like it wasn't there. I know that that wall meets this wall. This wall does not meet that wall. And there we have this hallway started. You'll notice that when you're sitting closer to the right, this becomes much steeper than this. The same thing will happen if you sit on the floor. You'll have much more of the ceiling to draw than you will of the floor. And you should get far away from whatever it is you're drawing. Anything that's going to give you a good one-point perspective. Now, if I turned my chair like this, am I in a one-point perspective situation anymore?
No.
You got to have what?
Oh.
Parallels and perpendiculars. And at this point, we don't have that in relation to my picture plane. 4 times in your sketchbook.